connection is enough to sustain us, highlighting the power of hope and patience. And just one more theme that we can talk about is challenging what holds us back. So finally, the disaster tourist shows the power of questioning one's circumstances. Yona's courage to redefine her role underscores that human solidarity can sometimes mean confronting and changing the environment that isolates us. This novel reminds readers that solidarity is often found by challenging alienation directly and fighting for change. So in conclusion, I would just like to thank you all for joining us in exploring these 5 remarkable novels. Each one shows a different path through alienation, reflecting the universal yet deeply personal ways we navigate our lives. I hope these stories inspire you to seek out connection, embrace change, and hold on to hope even in the face of isolation. These novels remind us that in a world that sometimes feels disconnected, we're never truly alone. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.
Gyeongju, a city that holds 1,000 years of history. The cherished values preserved over time have shaped who we are today. Now, through new encounters, we step into a better future. Sustainability, innovation. With the spirit of connection, a new millennium story begins. As APEC and Gyeongju come together, APEC meets Gyeongju.
In our headlines on this Thursday, October 2nd, here in South Korea. The benchmark KOSPI index charges into uncharted territory during trade on this Thursday, breaking past the 3,500 mark for the first time, driven by semiconductors. Come October 5th, we celebrate the 19th World Korean Day, aimed at advancing interactions between Koreans here in the country and the over 7 million Koreans residing overseas. Meanwhile, the U.S. federal government marks its first day of a shutdown, with lawmakers across the aisle blaming the other for the failure to narrow differences, but investors on Wall Street appear undeterred. Today, that is Thursday, October 2nd, marks the eve of a long extended holiday starting tomorrow, with National Foundation Day followed by the Chuseok holiday at the start of next week and ending with Hangul Day on October 9th. Now, as expected, we are looking ahead to a mass movement of people seeking to spend this festive occasion with family and friends. That being said, my colleague Park Jun-han is standing by live at Seoul Station. Jun-han, welcome. So let's begin with the atmosphere there. What have you been hearing and seeing, Jun-han?
Good afternoon, Sunny. I'm currently here at Seoul Station, as you just mentioned. Even though today is the eve of Chuseok holiday, which is 7th day, I could see that there are so many people actually here. And as you can see behind me, many are waiting either to meet their friends, get a holiday, or to unite to get back down to meet people. And although it's just past 5 p.m., the station is not overly crowded, as more people are expected to arrive after 6 p.m. after work. According to the latest data from railway company Korail, as of 3 p.m., 304,000 tickets had been booked for today, accounting for over 81% of the available train tickets from this station. Korail also said that 3.6 million tickets will have been sold throughout the entire Chuseok holiday period. Passengers here are excited. Take a listen to what some of them had to say.
I think it's great to be here during this holiday, experience also to see new parts of Korea, also meet up with some friends I met here last year. We meet up also with a group of friends here in Korea.
I'm planning to go down to my family home in Yeongwol, Gangwon province. During Chuseok, I'm looking forward to family gatherings, eating songpyeon rice cakes and lots of delicious food, and having fun together. I'll also get to see friends from my hometown and meet people I haven't seen in a long time, which I'm really excited about.
I'll be spending time with my family, seeing my grandfather, who is also my daughter's great-grandfather, and enjoying a warm, happy time together. My daughter really likes her grandparents, so we're both looking forward to seeing her play and have fun with her great-grandfather. We plan to spend a joyful and fulfilling time together.
Right. Jun-han, do tell us a bit about the estimated travel times for those who choose to take their cars or the bus to their hometowns.
Right, Sunny. So there are people at the train station, but there are some people who's actually taking car or express bus. So according to the Korea Expressway Corporation, the total expected traffic volume for today is 5.35 million vehicles. And the corporation noted that as the holiday period begins on Friday, traffic hasn't reached its peak yet. And as of Thursday at 4 p.m., it should take about 5 hours from the Seoul toll gate to the Busan toll gate. From Seoul City to Daegu City, it should take 3 hours and 30 minutes. From Seoul to Daejeon, it should take 2 hours and 20 minutes by car. For traffic departing from Seoul, congestion is expected to peak between 6 p.m. and 7 p.m. and is expected to ease after 11 p.m. For traffic heading towards Seoul, congestion is expected to be heaviest between 5 p.m. and 6 p.m. and is expected to be eased after 9 p.m. Back to you, Sunny.
All right, Jun-han, thank you for that coverage. That was our Park Jun-han's ETA for those planning to be on the road today to kick off the holiday season.
Happy Chuseok, Sunny.
Right, up next, we take a look at the price of setting this year's Chuseok table. Our correspondent Kim Do-yeon covers the grocery bills and more.
With a 7-day national holiday coming up, South Korea's consumer prices went back up to the 2% range. The Ministry of Data and Statistics said on Thursday that consumer prices rose 2.1% in September compared to a year earlier. The figure is a return to the 2% range after a temporary dip in August, which was attributed to a one-off mobile phone carrier discount promotion. The government says it is working to ease the burden on consumers.
The Chuseok holiday begins tomorrow. The government will do its utmost to ensure a Chuseok without price worries. Above all, we will manage shopping basket prices as our top priority.
A key part of the holiday is preparing the 차례, ancestral rite table, a feast of traditional dishes. Despite broader inflation, the government reports the cost for this specific meal has actually decreased. According to the Korea Agro Fisheries and Food Trade Corporation, the average cost is just under 200,000 won, or about $150, a 1.8% drop from last year. But the view from the ground suggests a disconnect between official data and the prices shoppers are actually seeing. According to Seoul City, Garak Mall here, located near a wholesale market, is the cheapest place to shop when preparing for ancestral rite table this Chuseok. It shows strength, especially in the produce section. However, vendors say that even at a price known for its value, business is slow, citing both high prices and the extended holiday keeping people away.
Business is bad. Fruit prices are so high that not many people are coming. And because the holiday is long, I wonder if people went traveling abroad. They're just not coming to the market.
Shoppers notice the difference in specific aisles.
Things like meat don't seem to have a big price difference, but I think vegetables and fruit have gone up a bit compared to usual.
Meanwhile, starting Wednesday until the 5th, traditional markets are running a promotion where consumers who purchase domestic agricultural, livestock, and fishery products can receive a rebate of up to 30% of their purchase amount in onnuri gift certificates, capped at 20,000 won per person, in efforts to further boost smaller businesses while taking burden off Chuseok shoppers. Kim Do-yeon, Arirang News.
And ahead of the long extended holiday here in South Korea, the benchmark KOSPI index soared past the 3,500 mark on this Thursday to post a new high. Our Moon Hae-ryun covers the day's rally.
The KOSPI is charging into record territory. For the first time in history, the main index soared past 3,500 points, peaking as high as 3,565.96 during Thursday's session. At Thursday's close, the index finished at 3,549.21 points, up 2.7%. The rally was led by Samsung Electronics and SK hynix, which surged on news of a new partnership with US AI giant OpenAI. Samsung rose over 4%, while SK hynix jumped more than 12% to an all-time high. The gains followed CEO Sam Altman's visit to Seoul, where he unveiled the Stargate project to expand global AI infrastructure. Under the plan, the two Korean chip makers will supply advanced memory chips critical for next-generation AI while pursuing new data centers in Korea. Global factors also played a role. Weak U.S. economic data has heightened expectations that the Federal Reserve will begin cutting interest rates sooner rather than later. That has fueled dollar weakness, strengthened the Korean won, and attracted foreign capital back into Asia's fourth-largest economy. Market analysts say the rally could continue into the year's final quarter, though some caution the index's heavy reliance on foreign inflows and a narrow band of tech stocks leaves it vulnerable to shifts in sentiment.
For now, the market is strong on expectations of a semiconductor supercycle and related optimism. But as we head into the fourth quarter, concerns over a U.S.-led economic slowdown and potential recession could weigh on sentiment and drag the market lower. Overall, we've entered a period where investors need to exercise caution.
On this note, President Lee Jae-myung commented.
우리 공직자들이 잘 준비해서 이 비정상으로 다시 돌아가지 않게 하고 또 더 앞으로 나아갈 수 있도록 제도든 정책이든 또 행정이든 최선을 다하면 지금보다는 좀 더 나아질 수 있을 겁니다. 경제 회복의 온기가 국민들의 삶 구석구석에 잘 스며들도록 모두가 다 혜택 볼 수 있도록 힘써야 되겠습니다.
With AI driving demand for advanced chips and Korean firms at the heart of the supply chain, investors are already speculating whether today's milestone could mark the beginning of what some are calling the KOSPI 5000 era. Moon Hae-ryun, Arirang News.
South Korea's current account remained in the black for the 28th month in a row in August. According to the Bank of Korea, the surplus hit $9.15 billion in August, marking the largest sum for August on record. The bank links this finding to a relatively greater drop in imports and a decline in energy purchases. Also, the cumulative surplus during the first 8 months of this year was some 24% higher on year. In celebration of the 19th World Korean Day this coming Sunday, President Lee Jae-myung today highlighted the importance of solidarity among Koreans at home and those living overseas to pave a productive path forward. Our correspondent Yoon Jung-min reports.
The nation finds itself in the middle of a fast-changing era where new challenges are emerging. That's according to President Lee Jae-myung addressing a World Korean Day event in Seoul, adding that's why the country needs to work together with overseas Koreans.
5천만 국민과 세계 각지의 700만 동포가 하나로 마음을 모은다면 우리는 다시금 이 위기를 이겨내고 더 큰 도약을 확실하게 얻어낼 것입니다.
Noting contributions by overseas Koreans in elevating the country as 10th largest economy in the world and a global cultural powerhouse, a message of full support was evident.
해외에 계신 우리 국민과 동포 모두의 권익과 안전을 지키는 일에 더욱 힘을 쏟을 것입니다.
Safety has emerged as a key concern for many Koreans living abroad in the wake of the recent raid at a Hyundai factory in the U.S. and controversial detention of hundreds of Korean workers. President Lee also vowed to improve the overseas voting system for those who have to travel a long way to cast their ballots.
우편 투표 방법 등의 가능한 방법들을 도입해야 되는데 이 제도를 바꾸는 데에 대해서는 많은 논란이 있는 게 사실입니다. 여러분들이 힘들겠지만 힘을 모아서 단단하게 뒷받침해 주시면 아주 빠른 시간 내에 제도 개혁이 가능하므로
Also addressed were lowering the age threshold for multiple citizenship, currently limited to people aged 65 and older, as well as bolstering consular support. World Korean Day falls on October 5th. Present at Thursday's event were around 370 people, including heads of Korean communities from around the world. Medals and rewards were awarded to those who have contributed to Korean communities and the nation as a whole. Yoon Jung-min, Arirang News.
In the U.S., the federal government has marked its first day of a shutdown, with lawmakers across the aisle blaming each other. But investors on Wall Street appeared undeterred. Our Lee Sing-jae has the latest.
The United States federal government has entered a partial shutdown after Congress failed to agree on a new budget due to disputes over health insurance subsidies. The shutdown began on Wednesday, forcing several public institutions and tourist attractions to close their doors and causing inconvenience for citizens across the country. Over in Washington, D.C., iconic landmarks, including the Washington Monument, the National Archives, the U.S. Botanic Garden, and even the Library of Congress have already shut down. While the impact on the first day was limited, analysts warn that the consequences could intensify after October 6th once the weekend has passed. Under shutdown rules, employees in essential sectors such as defense, law enforcement, and air traffic control will continue working. But hundreds of thousands of non-essential federal workers are being placed on unpaid leave. The Congressional Budget Office estimates that roughly 750,000 employees, or about 35% of the federal workforce, will be furloughed. Those who remain on the job will eventually receive back pay, but only once the shutdown comes to an end. Both parties are pointing fingers. The Democrats accuse Republicans of holding the budget hostage, while the Republicans blame Democrats for refusing to compromise.
What they have done instead is to shut down the government because we won't give billions of dollars to health care funding for illegal aliens.
Republicans control the House and the Senate, and there's a Republican president. If the government shuts down, it's because Republicans want to shut the government down.
Meanwhile, Wall Street appears cautiously optimistic. The S&P 500 closed at a record high on Wednesday as traders expressed hope that the shutdown would be short-lived and cause little damage to the economy. Historically, markets have weathered government shutdowns without much turmoil. But some analysts caution that this time could be different, given a range of economic pressures already weighing on the U.S. economy. As the days pass, the question remains, will lawmakers find common ground quickly, or will Americans face a prolonged shutdown that disrupts daily life and risks a broader economic fallout? Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
In other news, North Korea and Russia bolstering their ties both on the battlefield and on the diplomatic stage. In Moscow, their top defense officials reaffirmed their military alliance, while at the UN, the Kremlin defended Pyongyang's nuclear weapons program. Pyun Ye-young reports.
On Wednesday, North Korean Defense Minister Do Kwang-chol met with his Russian counterpart, Andrei Belousov, and pledged full support for Russia's war in Ukraine, calling it a defense of sovereignty and territorial integrity. The two ministers then attended the unveiling of a monument honoring North Korean partisans who fought alongside Soviet troops in World War II. Russia called it a symbol of brotherhood forged in fire and blood. The alignment was also clear in New York earlier in the week. At the UN General Assembly on Monday, North Korea's Vice Foreign Minister Kim Sun-kyung declared that Pyongyang will never give up its nuclear weapons.
We will never give up nuclear power, which is our state law, national policy, and sovereign power, as well as the right to existence. Under any circumstances, we will never walk away from this position.
Then on Wednesday, Russia echoed that message. At a press conference marking Moscow's presidency of the UN Security Council, Ambassador Vasily Nebenzia called North Korea's possession of nuclear weapons an open secret and a reality.
You may like it or not like it, but this is the reality. The reality justified by the threats that the DPRK, they really feel threatened by what is happening around the Korean Peninsula, by the activities, military activities, provocative activities.
He said those threats stem from what he called provocative military activities by South Korea, the United States, and Japan. Pyun Ye-young, Arirang News.
Meanwhile, South Korea is postponing its annual large-scale field training, the Hoguk Exercise, to mid-November from its original schedule of mid-October. According to the Joint Chiefs of Staff, the decision takes into account the importance of a readiness posture as world leaders gather in Gyeongju for the APEC leaders meeting that starts on October 31st. The exercise, if held this month, also reportedly overlaps with the timing of this year's parliamentary audit and international events such as the Seoul International Aerospace and Defense Exhibition. The Hoguk Exercise is a theater-level field training aimed at enhancing the joint operational capabilities of the Army, Navy and Air Force. Foreign Minister Cho says a new security deal with the U.S. may be finalized this month ahead of the APEC leaders meeting that begins October 31st. Speaking to Yonhap News Agency, Cho said bilateral talks on the security front have led to a rough agreement and that he will push to share details of this deal within this month as the two governments continue to seek common ground on the trade front. Initially, Seoul had sought to seal a comprehensive deal covering both trade and security with Washington. There is a UN agency that is actively engaged in the task of ensuring that artists, creators and inventors benefit from their work within an environment where intellectual property rights are respected and supported. Our Park Ko-nu sat down with the man leading this mission.
From addictive K-pop songs to beauty and skincare products, Korea's cultural exports are built on creativity, ideas, and technology. As they gain popularity around the world, protecting their intellectual property has become more crucial than ever. At the forefront of this effort is the United Nations World Intellectual Property Organization, or WIPO. Its Director General Darren Tong says Korea's innovation and creativity are inspiring.
Visiting South Korea is a way for me to keep up to date with the latest trends in innovation and creativity, see what Korean innovators and creators are up to, see whether we can draw lessons from this to also inspire other countries.
For around 2 decades, Korea has been investing time and resources to share its IP experiences with other countries at WIPO.
Korea has been also working on the Korea Fund to help other nations, protect their IPs and also give them the technology and so on. So how has that been working throughout the years? It's been around like 2 decades, I must say. And so how has that worked successfully, and how important has that been to help other countries, and any specific examples as well?
A graduate from Timor-Leste who was educated in the Masters of IP and Development program here in South Korea, and she's now our consultant to help Timor-Leste to build its first national IP office. And she's just one of the people, of the thousands of people we have trained.
Beyond funding, Korea plays a wider role on the global stage.
WIPO is working with a lot of countries to identify websites that infringe IP rights. So through that, it allows stakeholders, to either block these websites or to not finance these websites. We are the place where they all come together to discuss what are the latest trends, and more importantly, to discuss how to address these issues.
But Tong warns against taking intellectual property for granted.
We forget there's a lot of hard work that goes behind a new technology, a new brand, a new song, a new dance. We must make sure that we support the innovators and creators so that they can continue doing what they're doing, which is to bring joy to our lives, to make the world a better place, through their new ideas.
At the same time, he shared his concerns for misleading content generated by artificial intelligence and suggested some solutions.
Requires discussion amongst many different segments of society. AI is like any other technology that we've seen, like when I was growing up, there was e-commerce, and each generation then need to address the technology, make sure that we use it positively, and either regulate or reduce the harmful use.
But at the end of the day, he stressed that AI can also serve as a powerful tool, not only in addressing IP infringement, but also in giving creators new ways to express themselves. The WIPO chief added that constructive dialogue, along with sharing expertise and experiences as Korea has done, will be crucial for countries to develop socially and find new engines of development. Park Gon-woo, Arirang News.
There were lots of clouds in the skies in the center parts of the country today. In the southern parts of the country, it will rain in Chungcheongnam-do province, the Jeollado provinces, and Jeju Island tonight, and rain clouds will spread to Chungcheongbuk-do and Gyeongsangnam-do provinces tomorrow, and eastern parts of Gangwon-do and Gyeongsangbuk-do provinces in the afternoon. In particular, this rain will be concentrated in Jeollanam-do province and Jeju Island, with as much as 100 millimeters of heavy rain on the south coast of Jeollanam-do province and 120 millimeters on Jeju Island. Around these areas, when it rains, there will be heavy rain of around 30 millimeters per hour. Seoul will start off at 20 degrees Celsius tomorrow morning, Busan and Jeju at 21 degrees. Daily highs will go up to 24 degrees in Seoul and Busan, 25 degrees in Chuncheon. On the eve of Chuseok and the day of Chuseok, there's rain forecast mainly for the Seoul metropolitan area and Gangwon-do province. Have a great Chuseok holiday.
Right, that ends our newscast for now. As always, thank you for watching.
산에 오면 굉장히 일단 자연의 소리로 가득 차고 조용하거든요. 저도 그렇고 많은 사람들이 산을 통해서 많은 에너지를 얻고 또 다시 일상으로 돌아갔을 때 리프레시하는 그런 것들을 많이 얻어가는 것 같아요. 어느 날부터는 이런 아름다운 풍경 속에 정말 이질적인 하나의 모습이 눈에 들어오더라고요. 우리 인간들이 버린 쓰레기들. 제가 좋아하는 산을 즐기기만 하는 게 아니라 계속 즐기려면 제가 지켜야 하는 부분이 있으니까 나라도 조금 무언가를 해보자. 그리고 마음이 맞는 사람들이랑 같이 한 번에 변화시킬 수는 없을지라도 뭔가 우리가 계속 할 수 있는 일들을 해보자라고 했던 게 클린 하이킹이었던 것 같아요. 결국에는 사람들이 쉽게 사용했다가 내가 즐기고 맛보고 그냥 쉽게 편하게 사용하고 버려지는 것들이 가장 불편하기도 하고 우리가 심각하다고 생각하는 부분인 것 같아요. 쓰레기들을 보면 화가 나기도 하지만 또 이게 혼자 줍는 게 아니라 같이 줍다 보면 되게 재밌는 부분이 정말 오래된 막 50년도 더 된 쓰레기들을 발굴을 할 때가 있거든요. 2001년! 2001년! 우리가 태어난 연도보다 더 오래된 것들도 있고 이러다 보니까 같이 줍다 보면 더 그런 특이한 쓰레기, 재밌는 쓰레기를 찾으려고 게임처럼 막 하게 돼요. 자주 산을 찾고 자연을 찾고 즐기는 것도 중요하지만 조금 더 산을 사랑할 수 있는 쉬운 실천법들이 있거든요. 자연 속에서 자신도 즐기고 또 자연을 지킬 수 있는 활동을 좀 더 놀이로서 재밌고 즐겁고 유쾌하게 이런 환경이라는 게 너무 딱딱하고 내가 뭔가 힘을 들여서 해야 되는 일이 아니라 우리가 즐기면서 함께 할 수 있는 놀이처럼 그렇게 느낄 수 있는 자리를 많이 마련하는 그런 클린 하이커가 되고 싶습니다.
나는 쓰레기로 먹는 클린 하이커!
다니는 바람 덕에 귀는 시려오지만 내 옷깃을 흔드는 설레임 자 이대로 그냥 달아나지만 난 어떻게 할까 우리는 분명 같은 꿈을 꾸고 있는 걸 시간은 끝도 없이 내게 많은 것을 가져가지만 남아있는 건
On Press Perspective today, we touch upon the future of diplomatic ties between Seoul and Tokyo as Japan prepares for a leadership transition this coming weekend. Do stay with us. Hello and welcome to Press Perspective for this Thursday, October 2nd here in Seoul. I'm Min Sun-hee. Earlier this week, President Lee Jae-myung played host to Japanese Prime Minister Shigeru Ishiba in the southern port city of Busan, highlighting the importance of promoting partnership in tackling issues of common interest regardless of their domestic politics. For more on this, I have Walter Sim with Singaporean Daily, the Straits Times Live on the line. Walter, it's lovely to have you with us.
Likewise, thank you for having me.
I also have Dr. Che Eun-mi at the ASEAN Institute for Policy Studies live on the line as well. Dr. Che, it's a pleasure to have you with us.
Thank you for having me today.
Right, Walter, let's begin with the politics there in Japan. The ruling Liberal Democratic Party is scheduled to select a successor to Prime Minister Shigeru Ishiba this coming Saturday, I believe. For the sake of context, Walter, could you walk us through the events that led up to this particular development?
Right, so what happened was that Prime Minister Shigeru Ishiba said on September 7th that he would step down, and it was then seen as kind of a bombshell announcement. And his rationale for the timing, of course, was that a US trade deal had just been concluded and signed earlier that week. And so there was no other outstanding issues from his tenure. But of course, that his personal preference would have been to stay on, but yet that was impossible because his rivals within the LDP were all agitating for him to quit. So what the LDP has in its party rules is that a presidential election can be called, or rather can be forced, if more than half of the elected lawmakers petition for one, and many were already baying for accountability after the LDP suffered successive electoral losses that left the party in a minority position in both houses of the Diet. His resignation, however, comes despite a U-turn in public sentiment in media polls in August, with many Japanese actually campaigning and lobbying for him to stay on. So just yesterday, Mr. Ishiba marked 1 year of his short-lived tenure, which will end not on Saturday, of course, when his successor is chosen within the LDP out of the 5 contenders who are in the running, but in mid-October, I think October 15 is the date that is floated, and that's when an extraordinary Diet session will be called to formally nominate and elect the new Prime Minister.
Right, and against this backdrop, Dr. Che, as I mentioned earlier, early this week, President Lee Jae-myung played host to the Japanese Prime Minister in the port city of Busan. What do you believe, Dr. Che, are the broader implications of this interaction?
Well, the summit in Busan marks the third meeting between President Lee Jae-myung and Prime Minister Ishiba, given the Prime Minister Ishiba has served for only 1 year, and the Korean government has just been launched. It's very extraordinary, I think, for two leaders to meet this often. So typically, the summit alternates a summit meeting between Seoul and Tokyo, but this time it was took place in Busan. So I find it's particularly meaningful for two countries. Well, another notable aspect is their topic they addressed in the summit meetings was not only for the security or economic issues, but also pressing the social challenges faced by both countries, such as the declining birth rates and the aging population and the risk of regional decline. So in this way, I believe Korea and Japan are significantly broadening the scope of their cooperation. And also politically, I think Prime Minister Ishiba's decision to visit Korea just before Japan's political leadership transition demonstrates a strong intent to maintain, maintain and build upon the current positive momentum in Korea-Japan relations.
Right, and that, of course, has been shared by quite a number of pundits here in the country. That being said, Walter, what can you tell us about the response over in Japan to Prime Minister Ishiba's diplomatic agenda here in South Korea?
Right, and as Dr. Che pointed out earlier, it really is very extraordinary, the frequency of the visits and meetings between Mr. Ishiba and Mr. Lee, given how young both administrations are. And yes, the response in Tokyo has likewise been extremely positive, and I think it really does send a very strong signal that Mr. Ishiba's swan song diplomatic trip and kind of a goodwill visit to South Korea, it kind of sends this very strong signal that Japan cherishes the stability and positive momentum of its bilateral ties with its neighbor. And of course, this does not come easy, given how both countries share differences in terms, especially in terms of history. But what I think Mr. Ishiba's visit has done is to set this momentum, to continue this momentum for shuttle diplomacy that had begun under the predecessors of Mr. Ishiba and Mr. Lee, and ensure that this will continue under Japan's next leader. And of course, this takes two hands to clap, and I think Japan is very heartened that South Korea is also very interested in keeping the positive momentum of the relationship going. And I think what's very notable as well is that a lot of media editorials in Japan have said that, have encouraged Japan's next administration to continue to strive to build on this momentum and develop this trend of improving bilateral relations. And as Dr. Che pointed out earlier, both countries are US allies and also share a host of, common challenges in terms of demographic issues and so on.
And staying with that then, Dr. Cho, what are your prospects with regard to Seoul-Tokyo ties following the leadership transition in neighboring Japan?
Well, domestic political changes have an impact on foreign policy, of course, and then this is very especially true of the relations between Korea and Japan. The change in Japanese leadership coming Saturday is something that Korea is also paying keen attention to. So I think that who will become prime minister and the people who will be in his cabinet or her cabinet could have very different consequences for Korea. But fortunately, I think there is a broad consensus in Japan that Korea and Japan should maintain these current good relations. So we do not worry about the cooperation in the field of economy and security and the cooperation over the common issues between two countries like a low birth rate or something like that. However, the differences in leaders' view on the historical and very sensitive issues between the countries can have a significant impact on, the bilateral relations.
Right. That being said, then, Walter, who perhaps are the leading contenders for the top office there in Japan?
Right. So there are 5 people in the running for the LDP presidential elections on Saturday, of whom I think 2 names have surfaced as the front runners and pace setters of the election, and they are former Economic Security Minister Sanae Takaichi, who will be Japan's first female prime minister if she is elected and in the Diet, and she's facing off against current Agriculture Minister and former Environment Minister Shinjiro Koizumi, who will be Japan's youngest post-war prime minister if he were to prevail. But of course, there are 3 other people in the running, and I think one name that has been surfacing in domestic media and who should not be ruled out is Chief Cabinet Secretary Yoshimasa Hayashi, who has been gaining momentum in his campaign as well. So what's going to happen on Saturday is that this election will start at 1 p.m. and 590 votes will be at stake. So of these votes, half of this will be allocated to the 295 elected lawmakers, and the other half will be proportionally allocated according to the votes cast by 910,000 rank and file LDP members from across Japan. So the vote will end in one round if one candidate scores a clear-cut majority, failing which there is a runoff election where the top 2 candidates will square off. And so as I mentioned earlier, going by media posts, it does seem like it might be a Takaichi versus Koizumi instance, with Koizumi having solid support amongst lawmakers and Takaichi having more support amongst the rank and file members. But if I may add, I think the odds seem to be quite stacked against Takaichi, according to media analysis as well as tallies that's been circulating in Japan. Even if she were to make it to the final two, and I think it's notable that last year she actually came in first out of 9 candidates, only to lose to Prime Minister Ishiba in the second round, and it does not seem like she has that much lawmaker support as well again this year. So, but that being said, if it were say a Koizumi versus Hayashi tie-up, it does seem likely that Hayashi might prevail in the second round.
Right. Walter, with regard to the front runners in this particular race, what has been shared about their potential policy with regard to South Korea?
Right. If Hayashi if Chief Cabinet Secretary Yoshimasa Hayashi were to win, I think we would see a lot of continuity. Considering that he was the right-hand man of former Prime Minister Fumio Kishida and now under Prime Minister Shigeru Ishiba as well. But that said, I think there are a lot of question marks if Ms. Takaichi or Mr. Koizumi were to prevail. And concentrating this focus on the two of them, given that, there are a lot of uncertainties, I think both of them are seen as very ideologically different, given how Ms. Takaichi is considered to be very hawkish and Mr. Koizumi considered to be very liberal in their positions, especially for social issues, like the right for married couples to maintain different surnames. But that being said, in their bid to broaden their appeal in this campaign period, both Ms. Takaichi and Mr. Koizumi have kind of shifted towards a more moderate line, and so they are trying to appeal to as many lawmakers and voters as possible. But even so, I think it must also be said that both Ms. Takaichi and Mr. Koizumi are actually conservatives at heart, and they have regularly visited the Yasukuni Shrine, where Class A war criminals are enshrined amongst the war dead. And Mr. Koizumi's father, Junichiro Koizumi, when he was Prime Minister from 2001 to 2006, also made it an annual habit to go to the Yasukuni on August the 15th as well. So history, as I think we have discussed time and again, is one issue that can derail this positive momentum in bilateral relations. And it is, of course, of note that both candidates have declined to give a clear statement of whether they will continue this annual practice to the Yasukuni, and both have also said that diplomacy is important. So on that note, I think despite all the question marks and uncertainty, I think Japan's position is that South Korea is a key partner, and I don't foresee any significant shifts in the short term, especially in terms of diplomatic relations between both countries.
Right then. Keeping in mind what Walter has just said, Dr. Cho, what are your prospects with regard to differences over history between Seoul and Tokyo? Do you see this particular reality as perhaps hindering productive ties between these two countries?
Well, that's really, I think, good questions. And I also think that this kind of historical issues can hinder, it's going to hinder the two countries' tie at this moment. But I'm not sure, but apparently I can say in Korea, many people, the most media or the people who are interested in this elections, they also very keen attention. That it's, the visiting the Yasukuni Shrine is drawing keen attention from Korea. So I do not hope this is not all two countries, but at this moment, but the focus is whether the visit made by Koizumi Shinjiro or Takaichi Sanae to Yasukuni Shrine in the past is going to continue even after they became, he or she became a prime minister. But I think maybe this kind is going to be different. And actually these days, Takaichi Sanae also do not apparently say she will going to Yasukuni Shrine after if she becomes a prime minister. So I think maybe it might be different, but after it is a matter of how to deal with the historical issues and how Seoul responded to them when they arose. So although the two countries have very good relations and friendly relations these days, but it remains to be seen that will happen when these problems rise again. So we will see and how the Korean government respond to when it happens from Japanese side.
Right, I suppose we'll cross that bridge when we come to it then. Walter, moving forward, it's been said that US President Donald Trump will stop by Japan during his trip to this part of the world for the APEC leaders meeting here in South Korea. He's likely to sit down with the new Japanese Prime Minister. What has been shared about ties between Tokyo and Washington in recent times, Walter?
Right. Well, I do think that Japan really values its security alliance as well as its relationship with the United States, regardless of who is in office in both countries. So despite the volatility of the Trump era as well as the uncertainties in Japanese politics, I think the foundations of bilateral relations between Japan and United States in terms of their security alliance, in terms of their trading relationship are very strong. So Japan has typically taken this very softly approach to its diplomacy with the US when there are disagreements. So it will say what needs to be said. It will debunk any falsehoods like how it did during the trade negotiations when the US was accusing Japan of not doing enough in terms of importing rice and so on and so forth. And Japan has also been gently pushing back against demands that it sees as too onerous or even bordering on the lines of infringing on sovereignty issues, such as, for Japan to increase its defense spending to 3.5%, which really should be a matter that Japan decides internally and not a request or demand for the US to make. So I think this trend is set to continue under the new PM, whoever he or she may be. Of course, things may be easier if it were said to be Mr. Hayashi or Mr. Motegi or Mr. Koizumi, given that they have existing relationships with the United States, be it in their previous roles on the cabinet or having studied in the United States previously. And so, yes, I do think this is set to continue. Of course, there will be questions over whether whoever the new Japanese Prime Minister will be able to strike this chord with and have this chemistry with Mr. Trump, who had enjoyed a close relationship with the late Prime Minister Shinzo Abe and was also on rather good terms with Mr. Ishiba. But yes, I do think that this positive momentum will continue.
Right. And more broadly speaking, Dr. Cho, what are your thoughts with regard to the trilateral cooperation among South Korea, the US and Japan going forward?
Well, I also think that trilateral cooperation will continue and these days, but I think as various pressures from United States, such as tariff issues and what can be, I want to say, the so-called Trump risk are applied. More talks are being made between Korea and Japan. We need to cooperate because of the America issues like that. So I think the cooperation between Korea and Japan will be strengthened more and more, and also the trilateral cooperation with the United States is going to be continued. And and also can go to we can talk more various issues. But however, I think there may be differences in detail how to respond to China and North Korea and Australia. For example, sometimes we can say we can notice the differences between the denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula and the denuclearization of North Korea. So it's a big difference actually. So I think even though the three countries have a consensus to cooperate about some security threats or security issues, but we need to talk more and more discussion on this kind of detail. And I hope it's going to have more talks between three countries.
Right. Well, quite a number of pundits are hoping that the APEC leaders meeting here in South Korea later this month will provide leaders with an opportunity for in-depth discussions. On that note, I'm afraid I'll have to end today's discussion. Dr. Che, thank you so much for your insights.
Thank you.
And Walter, my friend, thank you very much for your time and your thoughts.
Thank you very much.
Right, that ends this week's editions of Press Perspective. For those of you here, do enjoy your long extended holiday.